Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Made in New England interview series, where we talk with New England based businesses and the people who lead them. I'm your host, Steve DeVries, and today I'm joined by Brian Ruhlman, the CEO of Craic Sauce, located in Lowell, Massachusetts. Brian, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Absolutely. So, Brian, why don't you kick us off by telling us a little bit about yourself, give us maybe some background, and tell us all about Craic Sauce.
Sure. Live in Lowell. I have some Irish roots too. Growing up, I just definitely connected to my Irish roots. My grandfather, my mom's dad's from Roscommon, kind of smack in the middle of Ireland. But yeah, just a little bit about myself. Like I was die-hard Sox fan. That 2004, I was actually just watching the Netflix documentary and just like really getting vivid flashbacks to reading the paper and everything. Coming out of, I guess, when the Red Sox won, I was like, in high school, I was like, I want to be the next Theo Epstein, and like really charted my path to go down the road of sport management. So yeah, I grew up in Concord, Mass, have a bunch of good friends there, went to UMass Amherst, and I did pursue sport management. So I did sport management, worked for the Celtics for a year. I also did a study abroad program in Dublin, so that was my first time going to Ireland, and it was awesome connecting with a lot of cousins over there. Working with the Celtics, it was incredible experience. I did get bit by the entrepreneurship bug junior or senior year of college. I blame 4-hour work week with Tim Ferriss. I was just like, whoa, like you can travel, you can like get like e-commerce in your sleep, like sales in your sleep. And some random LinkedIn person, shout out Louise from HubSpot, said, "Oh, we're opening up a new office from a Boston company in Dublin. Would you consider like moving back home?" And I was like, I've never lived in Ireland besides a few months, but I think she saw me from like UCD living in Boston, and so I wanted to go into more of an entrepreneurial environment. So I joined HubSpot in the Dublin office when it was just like, I think it was like 50 or so people there.
Wow.
And that was eye-opening, because like when I was with the Celtics, it was like there's 15 of you just out of college, hit the phones hard. My first day was like Paul Pierce and KG got traded. So I was like going deep into my soul of like, Rayful Friends might not be like the whole future of the Celtics, but like, man, does he have heart? And we got these draft picks. And so that went from that to cold calling CMOs. I was I was a BDR, and like not 100 calls a day, but like 40
A lot.
calls, 40 emails to CMOs of enterprise companies in the UK. And so that was like hard, but I learned so much. Like my like peers, we're all from different countries too, and so it was cool, like just culturally doing that. So yeah, I really kind of built a professional sales background while with HubSpot. But what was cool is that I was really exploring a lot of my own interests. They made you start a website to learn, like to kind of create a fake business, because you would be consulting marketers and sales leaders about how to use the software. So they wanted you to learn it. So I started this website, crafthotsauce.com, just for this new hire project. And I didn't know anything about hot sauce besides making this like pumpkin, pineapple, ghost pepper hot sauce like right before I left for Ireland. And I just started cold calling people to do this project, but I felt really interested in learning about people's backgrounds, their interests, their culture. And so I just used that as like, hey, I'm going to keep on writing. I'm dyslexic and hated writing, like SAT writing was like that. I have nightmares of that. But I just started writing because it was the first time I was writing about something I was interested in. And when I would travel to like Madrid or to Berlin, I'd link up with a hot sauce maker and started a podcast. And in that time, I was like, whoa, these people are really cool, having there's so much innovation and opportunity to go in different directions in hot sauce. You can also stay mainstream in hot sauce, but the stuff that was like interesting to me was like different perspective, bringing and infusing their culture into the product. So in that time in Ireland, I continued on the kind of entrepreneurial path, was building this media and e-commerce website. And it was like, you know what? I want to start my own brand when I get back home. So in 2016, I left Dublin and moved back home, and yeah, started cooking batches on nights and weekends with good crack kind of being the guiding light of not being a national brand. I've always been a person that, like, coming back from Ireland, I would go into, like, I was still in sales, like kind of professional sales, and I would feel somebody like grabbing my shirt, like when I was going out for a lunch and going back into the office, like, don't go inside. Like, I've always been an outdoor person, loving to work with my hands. I think that is in my family. Like, most of my family members do work with their hands. So it's been a pleasure starting this from scratch and growing it.
And you said something about good crack. And so, I know you talk about that on your website, but for the benefit of the people who are meeting you for the first time, what is crack? CRAIC.
Yeah, so crack is like good fun, but it's kind of this energy. Everybody had, like, people that have good crack have this energy, and it can be a person, it can be between two people. A lot of times it's referring to, like, kind of like any crack last night, or I mean, you're kind of alluding to, like, oh, did you have like a fun night out last night? But it could just be a conversation between two old ladies over tea. That could be great crack and everything. But it really doesn't necessarily, like, it can be among strangers and new people. So I get a lot of that in my day to day, is just how many people I meet, relationships I build, and it's fun to spend time with people that are good crack.
Well, so at the risk of going down a rabbit hole a little bit, you mentioned you started with the Celtics, which probably would have been my dream job. The
Yep,
Celtics are my
yeah, let's
first
go.
love, and so you mentioned some good things and some not so good things in your brief time there with the Celtics, but I digress. So you started Craic Sauce in 2016, and you and I actually met probably 3 years ago now in Lowell, right? And so you were telling me a little bit before we started recording about how your business has grown. So could you tell us a little bit about that growth process and what's driven the success of Craic Sauce to this point?
Yeah, it's been built on maybe 2,000 pop-up events and farmers markets. I think that's what we've done. I think this year we're wrapping up around 400. So really just, and we've hand labeled, hand filled, no fancy equipment. We've just done it very slowly. So yeah, it started kind of in Lowell, and has expanded. We're very lucky to be right next to Boston. We're at SOA and Snowport, these winter markets, and we do a ton of business there and meet people all over the world. And so I think that's one thing. It's just like being out there, and me or any of our crew talking to the people, and we're also the ones that are making it. We're actually growing some of these peppers and tomatoes from seed to sauce, and so they're really interested in that story. So that's one piece. I think the next piece is we have really good sauces, a hot sauce, but some other sauces here and there, and that comes from that all of our peppers are directly from Massachusetts farms, and a lot of the produce is, and we're so involved in every step that we're thinking about how to improve it every day. So we do a lot of limited edition sauces. I think this has helped both on kind of the hype and our practice. Is when we do limited editions, we're trying to do something that's not for everybody, but it's like it's for a particular. So we just did a kelp hot sauce. We did like a super hot sauce, and every time we do one of these new batches, we're trying new cooking techniques or new sourcing, or exploring new flavor profiles that make us uncomfortable. So I think the being pushed by our customers to do more and interesting things, and then having to go through that process, we learn a lot. So I feel very fortunate that we have a great kitchen partner in Lowell. We're a shared kitchen. I couldn't afford paying all the utilities, the build out and everything. So we're able to use their equipment, and we've been there since 2018. So it's like we were doing 60 bottle batches, and now we're doing like 3,000 bottles a week in that space. So yeah,
3,000 bottles of hot sauce.
it's a lot easier when we're putting in half gallons now too. So we're actually having this whole debate is like, how do we like track? There's a lot of operational things happening right now, but yeah, we're starting to go more into like the gallons versus the bottles, which is a lot easier to bottle.
Okay, very cool. So when you do some of these new recipes, right? And how do you get feedback from your customers on what they like or what they don't like? Is it as simply as, what's selling and what isn't, or are you hearing from your customers? Are they telling you what they think?
Yeah, we're definitely hearing it just because we do so many events. So it's kind of like this little circle that works. But we just released our first super hot sauce, and for 7 years we were like, oh, you guys have really good flavor, but like I want to like die in terms of heat. Like this is like we you guys need to do something hotter. So we grew Apocalypse Scorpion, Death Spirals, Peach Ghost Pepper, and we kind of we're like, this is not like what I'm personally going for, like as a consumer, but I know there's this audience out there. And so then we just do like super small batch with testing like 3 or 4 variables. We do another batch off that, another one, and then we're like, okay, I think we got it. But even then, like it's still it's a little risky. It's not. I mean, I don't know. Like people, I think are still going to buy it, but we don't really know how it's going to come out. But that's the fun of it.
Yeah, yeah, and hence the small batch, right? You don't get too
True.
far out over your skis.
Exactly.
So you started to mention a little bit about some operational things, and you're looking at different things. One of the things I typically ask my guests is, what things do you look at to measure the success of the business? Do you have metrics? Are there things that help you understand if the business is moving in the direction that you want it to go?
Yeah. Something I want to get better at and a little bit more automated because sometimes I'm usually the one I'm doing all the books and we're building on Lily's our director of revenue operations, so she's bringing on a lot more process to this. We look at store velocity, so we're in about like 150. Actually, maybe closer. I don't even know the top number. Like probably like 175 accounts. So thinking about like how frequently are they ordering, and we're looking at kind of like we have a lot of historical data with our pop-ups and events and e-commerce. So we're looking at a lot like quarter over quarter, year over year, and trying to make improvements. So we generally have seen those, and I think those improvements come from better brand recognition, but then also most over 50% of our business comes from doing events. So we get to like really we commit to a lot of events, and then some of them we don't do again, and then other ones we hear about and see, like Wellfleet Oyster Fest. Like I've been trying to get into that for years, and I emailed the person. It's like, if anybody cancels last minute, like I'm there. And it was a hell of an event. It was just like an incredible time, and we sold a ton. And we're getting a lot more connected with the Cape too, so we're trying to think about events where we're trying to develop a little bit more of a presence as well to connect with the locals.
Nice. So I would imagine that, being a New England based business and growing here makes your production to some degree seasonal. Is your business seasonal or cyclical at all, or do you have a pretty steady state throughout the year in terms of sales?
Yeah, we do like 50% of our revenue in November and December. It's like, yeah, it's like, and we're building against, like, we're trying to, and we are becoming a little bit more consistent with some of our sales strategies, but we definitely lean into the holidays just because people like the holiday markets there are just so many people that go out and they love them for themselves, but also for stocking stuffers, and everybody knows a hot sauce person. So we definitely take advantage of that. But we also source 100% of our peppers that we think we're going to need for the next 14 months from August to the first frost. So we bust our ass on the farm plot and in the kitchen to pretty much empty our bank account and put that into peppers. And then like there's about 2 weeks there where we're like, whoa, this is extremely tight. And then the holiday markets hit and then we're good. And then it's like slow. So it's like it's pretty crazy seasonally, but we haven't taken any investment. We've been just putting our savings into inventory, into upgrades into our manufacturing and staff and everything. So yeah, we've been able to kind of grow it in a not a linear way, but each year kind of just putting some of our chips that we get back into the business.
It's completely bootstrapped. Love it. So, what excites you most about the future of Craic Sauce?
We get to do more or less the same thing. We're really we did this. We brought our products, all the tomatoes, 2,000 pounds of tomatoes that we picked from our farm plot in Lowell, and brought it down the street and did a huge manufacturing run with this, at least huge in our perspective. We normally do 30 gallons, we did 200 gallons, and I got a vision into our upgrades that we can do manufacturing wise. So we have a 3-year lease or a 3-year extension on our kitchen, and we're getting this new equipment, and we're not trying to do anything too crazy, so like too different. So I'm excited that like we're making improvements on our processes each year, but we're just going to try to do it better and more, but still keeping the small batch limited edition stuff. I have a ton of things that we put on our, just like haven't had the time to work on, that we're going to be tackling at the beginning of the new year. So I feel like we're kind of getting rid of some of our like tech debt or like messiness in operations and finances, but we're not trying to be like, oh, we're gonna open this huge new market in Florida or go national, or like we're just chilling and trying to
It
enjoy
sounds like you're in
ourselves
a
more.
groove, right? Like, so it sounds like the business is starting to hit its stride a bit, and that's exciting in and of itself. After, again, I remember our first conversations 3 years ago, and it sounds like, I mean, the growth is definitely happening, and you've figured out some things operationally, and you're just getting more effective at it. So, I mean, that's definitely something to be excited about. And
Yeah.
so, if you think about your business or your industry, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it and sort of change one thing or improve one thing about your business or the industry, what would that be?
I think better connectivity among growers and producers and consumers. uh,
How
I've
so?
Since I've grown Craic Sauce, I've become so much more aware of how challenging it is for local farmers and agriculture, and how much they're at the whim of nature, and how much food waste there is, and also nutritionally how there's a ton of junk out there. So like I wish like more people could see my perspective of what kind of eating more locally and health can do, and building an infrastructure on that. It just like there's so much. I read this book called The Secret Life of Groceries, and just talking about how there were so many pressures from the supermarket chains that in globalization around the cost and the look of products. And when you see like carrots at a farmer's market for $4 a pound versus market basket for 68 cents, you're like, that's like a huge difference. Like, this is carrot 8 times better. And like I think it is in my opinion, but it's like I wish there was just even the playing field for local agriculture, because I think it's extremely important for a lot of reasons.
Okay. Well, so the show is called Made in New England, and it's all about New England-based companies. So I always ask the question, how does being in New England affect your business, pros or cons?
Yeah, I shared a little bit about just the power of Boston, but like it's such a concentrated area. We're 35 minutes if there's no traffic, an hour and a half if there is, from Lowell to Boston. So it's like it's awesome how we have that much access. But there's also on the pepper front, like people are like, oh, you can grow peppers in New England. It's like, yeah, you sure can. And so like there's a lot of awesome farms in the area. So I think just that ecosystem of just the density of New England with the seasons and access to farms is just I love it over here.
Nice.
Can't get that in Ireland.
Well, so last question. Any advice for young entrepreneurs like yourself, people who have a great product, have this passion, and are thinking about starting their own business, whether it's in a similar type of consumer packaged goods industry or otherwise? What would you tell yourself, a few years ago when you were starting that business?
Like I'm a very patient person, and so I feel like just persistence and grinding it out. You're gonna people are gonna recognize it. People are gonna respect it. You're gonna get better. You're gonna it's a less risky way of doing that. So I would say just like kind of roll up your sleeves, figure stuff out, learn a ton. But then when you do see those opportunities, pursue them, because every time you do pursue something, like I think I got to like figure it out on our manufacturing front, like where we want to go. And I'm going to try to jump to that, but it's not going to turn out like I think probably not. And I'll learn some lessons from that. So when you see launching off points, I'd say go think about them, tackle them, but through that whole process, you're continually learning along the way. So yeah, that'd be my advice.
So, how can people get their hands on Craic Sauce?
Yeah, we got a brand new website hosted by Shopify, so you can order online and ship it directly to your door. We are in the Boston, like SOA and Snowport markets daily to the end of the year and some other stuff. So yeah, our website has a bunch of local stores, but the best way to buy Craic Sauce is from one of our local stockists, because then it kind of supports a couple businesses that way.
And what's the website?
Craicsauce.com. It's spelled the Irish way, Craic sauce.com.
Well, so we've been speaking with Brian Ruhlman, the CEO of Craic Sauce. Brian, thanks so much for joining us today. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Steve. It was fun.
Absolutely. And so thanks to everybody for watching and listening. We'll be back soon with the next episode. Hope you all have a great day.